In a region of Ireland, in a forest, we see a man and a woman running frightened from something. Suddenly, the young man named Frank falls to the ground, tired and injured, and immediately calls for Catherine to help him. The woman lifts him and they continue to run, noticing that something is following them closely. The couple drop their things and head toward a clearing ahead. Catherine notices that the creature pursuing them is approaching and surrounding the two. When they stop to think what to do, suddenly Frank is dragged into the tall grass and only his screams of pain and despair are heard together with grotesque growls. The woman, terrified, crouches and freezes in panic and calls for her companion, who no longer responds. Seconds of silence fill the area until Frank reappears, screaming in despair and badly wounded. However, already without strength to fight, he allows himself to be taken by the creature. Fearing for her life, Catherine runs to the center of the clearing where a stone stands raised toward the sky. Near it, the woman falls. And when she gets up, she looks around searching for the creature that pursues her. Catherine can only see the tall grass moving, but does not see the creature. Suddenly, and unfortunately for Catherine, she is ambushed and dragged to her death. Days later, two couples are touring Ireland. They are Jennifer and David and the two promising students Sophie and Ben. One studies medicine and the other likes history. They hitched a ride in a truck to reach the destination, a village Sophie saw in the tourist guide. Curiously, they soon arrive at the same site of the attack that happened days before with the stone in the center of the clearing. At first, the youngsters are surprised by the stop there, but soon the vehicle's driver says that the village they seek is a few miles beyond the clearing. The youngsters ask why the man cannot take them to the place. But without giving plausible reasons, the man says he can only drop them off there. Then he receives the payment and leaves the site. After that, the youngsters leave the road and cross the clearing with tall grass and stop at the stone in the center. Approaching the monument, they observe markings on the rock structure. But without paying much attention, they continue the journey. Young Sophie tells the others that the village they will visit is over 300 years old and its inhabitants have kept ancient Celtic artifacts for decades. Suddenly, Jennifer cuts her friend's speech and points to a bearded man who is watching the group from afar. However, the stranger who is armed does nothing and does not communicate. He only turns around and leaves. A few minutes later, the group arrives at the village, an apparently peaceful place. The youngsters enter a bar with several people inside. Soon, the owner, Mrs. Mary, welcomes them and leads them to a table while the patrons watch them suspiciously. Sophie is a historian and takes advantage of the trip to add to her knowledge. Hearing the group talking, an adult man named Hamish says he can help her and says that since she likes stories, she needs to see the stones of the gods. Hamish tells a little of what he knows. He says that the stones of the gods are a group of rock monuments inside a cave in the forest. What is known is that such rock sculptures are the oldest artifacts in all of Ireland and it is believed to be the cradle of Celtic civilization. The youngsters are excited to visit such a place and want to go even when the man says it will take hours. Hamish says he has a cabin in the forest and they can use it as shelter if they want to venture. The group decides among themselves, and even though Ben doesn't want to, the majority wins in a vote. So, they set off right away, getting a ride from Hamish's son, young Sean. The group gets into the jeep and heads into the forest. On the way, Sophie asks about the meanings of the inscriptions on the stone in the clearing, but Hamish says that nobody knows since they have been there for centuries before the village formed. He tells about a gold mine in a cave, but it collapsed, killing many. And after that day, the village never prospered again. Ben questions the matter since the man has a gold watch and Hamish justifies by saying he received it from an outsider. The group continues the journey and arrives at a beautiful house surrounded by the forest. However, it is already worn by time after being abandoned following the mine incident. Hamish says it is not the place where they will stay. They continue on and further ahead finally arrive at the small, peaceful house where they will spend the night. While Sean opens the locks, the youngsters hear noises coming from the grass near the forest and are startled when something approaches the place. Fearing it might be dangerous, Hamish grabs the gun and fires in the direction of whatever it is and scares off what seemed to be an animal. The youngsters are fearful and ask what it was. Soon, Hamish says that there are wild boars in the area and they are dangerous. After the scare, the group enters the house and father and son leave them there. Unbeknownst to the youngsters, Hamish, before leaving the place, looks carefully at the forest surrounding the house and then leaves the beautiful watch hanging on a nail on the porch. Night soon falls and the couple Ben and Sophie get ready to sleep while Jennifer wants to make out a little with David, but nothing happens since the young man drank more than he should and fell asleep. Outside the house, something watches them closely. Later in the early morning, a heavy footstep noise wakes Jennifer. She gets up and uses a flashlight to check. Courageously, she goes to the living room and turns on the electric lamp and again hears the noise. She goes to the window and notices that iron bars have been placed as protection. Jennifer observes the quiet outside when suddenly something passes the window rapidly, frightening her. Very scared, she wakes the others and says she saw something very fast outside the house. Such a creature passes along the porch and takes the watch. While Ben and David laugh at the girl's scare, she expresses panic at what she witnessed. Wanting to prove to Jennifer that everything is fine, David decides to go out to check. Only then does the group realize they have been locked inside. The group begins to panic, noticing there is only a single entrance and it has been locked from the outside. Jennifer, terrified and afraid, sits near the cold, dark fireplace when suddenly something pulls her gold earring and injures her ear. The youngsters are at a loss to understand what they have just seen. And when David approaches the fireplace, a creature emerges and tries to attack the group. Desperate, the youngsters rush into the bedroom and lock themselves inside. When Sophie looks under the door gap, she sees the monstrous hand of the creature, which immediately tries to enter the room. After a few minutes of silence, the group thinks the terror has passed. But it is at that moment that the creature enters the room. However, fortunately, the youngsters dodge the attack and trap it under the bed. Looking into the fireplace, the youngsters notice there is a passage that will lead them outside and then they flee quickly. In the escape, David is injured and almost dragged to death. But fortunately, his friends pull him and escape the monster's attack. They head toward the house they had passed earlier. And while David suffers from the wound and falls behind, the creature escapes from the house. Only Sophie returns to help her friend. And upon realizing the creature is approaching, she throws the lamp and sets the ground on fire, scaring the monster. The two keep running and meet the others inside the house. The situation terrifies the group. Sophie sees batteries responsible for the power, and turning on the lights drives the creature away from the place. The youngsters look for something useful in the house. Soon come across a basement. Brave Sophie goes down into the room and the others follow her. Down there, they discover abandoned clothes, footwear, and many tools. The youngsters end up discovering that the place stores items and objects of previous victims, making them believe they were deliberately taken to their deaths. Elsewhere, father and son await another person to arrive, and Sean does not readily accept what they did, proving that they were the ones who locked the couples in the house, handing them over to a creature they already knew. The guest arrives, a man named Ian, who came to help with the cleaning they will do in a few hours. It is revealed that they still suffer from what happened in the cave, and offer people to the creature so that it gives them more time and does not attack the village. They get into the vehicle and head for the House of Horror. Meanwhile, Sophie finds a book that shows the writings and reveals the meaning. The territory they are on belongs to a mystical creature called the Duende. The writings say that if they want the gold, they must offer something in return, and the youngsters discover that it is with them that the men of the village are paying what they owe. On the map that shows the rocks, Jennifer notices that the standing stones are the limit to how far the creature can go, which is why the truck driver did not cross the area's boundaries, already knowing the stories that circulate the village. When the men arrive at the house for the cleaning, they find the house empty and no sign of the youngsters. Minutes later, they arrive at the house where the couples are and begin to search for them. The youngsters, hearing they have company, grab some improvised weapons and take shelter in the darkness. When Sean goes to check the basement with his gun, it doesn't take long for him to find and subdue the couples. Soon, his father comes down and goes to the place. He congratulates his son on the capture, but Sean does not agree with his father's actions. He reflects and imagines the atrocity he is about to be complicit in. Suddenly, they hear shots above and quickly go up. While Sean stays in the house, Hamish goes to check the area. The youngsters manage to break the door with tools and come across Sean at the exit of the room. Fortunately, the young man does not shoot and allows the youngsters to escape. Desperate, the two couples run to get away from the place. Hamish, searching for his friend, ends up finding him in the shed, badly injured and near death. The man warns him of the creature, and Hamish fires at it. Seeing there will be no escape for his friend, he jumps out the window and moves away from the place, hearing Ian's screams. After running a bit, David is unable to continue and falls to the ground. Suddenly, a vehicle approaches and they discover it is Mrs. Mary. She kindly offers help and gives them a ride. The youngsters are relieved to be rescued. However, unsuspecting of the lovely woman, They are taken to an area of the forest where they are handed over again to Hamish and his son. The group is at a loss for what to do under the guns, but Ben and David think of something, and with an iron rod, Ben attacks Hamish and then the others join in the attack. Unfortunately, unarmed, the group become the victims, and even the lady participates and knocks Sophie out. When she wakes up, she realizes they are tied to trees in the middle of the forest, very close to one of the stone monuments, and she is wearing a gold necklace handed to her by the villagers. However, tied there, they are easy targets for the creature that is already circling the group. Hearing the noises in the forest, the youngsters begin to panic. Suddenly, the duende comes very close to Ben and does nothing. The same with David and Sophie. But with Jennifer, it notices gold and then takes what it believes is its own, ripping the girl's tongue piercing out. Going back to David, it ends up wounding him in the stomach with its claws and in the process cuts the ropes that bound the young man. He sees himself free and then runs. His friends shout, calling him to help, but the young man does not return. The creature approaches Sophie and growls at her, but fortunately, David returns with a blade and cuts Jennifer's rope. The creature knocks him to the ground, and while it is focused on him, Jennifer frees the other friends. Unfortunately, the creature severely injures the young man and leaves him unable to run. And seeing this, the friends flee for their lives. Thinking of something, Sophie decides they will not run easily. She says they will return to the cabin and kill the duende creature. Inside, she places the gold necklace in the fireplace to lure the creature while Jennifer waits outside hidden. The creature soon approaches the house and begins to enter. The couple Ben and Sophie wait to attack the monstrosity. At that moment, Jennifer appears to close the little hatch and lock the duende inside, but she is attacked. Unfortunately, the attack that was meant for the creature, the young Jennifer receives from her friends because the duende pushed the girl knowing she was going to be tricked. The couple fall into despair while the creature drags the girl's body. The two run outside and see a truck not far away. They run to reach the vehicle before being attacked. Unfortunately, the car has no keys and soon they are attacked. The attack does not last long and soon the duende leaves them in peace. Sophie sees Ian's body in the shed and believes the keys are with him, so they need to get them. The problem is the creature nearby that returned to destroy the youngsters and attacks the vehicle with force and fury. The two think of something and decide how they will do it. Sophie runs to get the key while Ben distracts the duende with a flare. Sophie finds the keys and returns to the car, but the creature is there. Frightened, they run to the nearby house and try everything they can to escape. However, the creature enters and drags Ben away and mercilessly kills him by ripping out his spine. Sophie, terrified, climbs to the attic where she is trapped. Fearing for her life, she enters a hidden room and waits there, trying to hold back her sobs. The duende looks around and finds hand marks on a small hatch. It enters and finds Sophie there. She screams in panic, but fortunately, Sean climbs to the attic and shoots at the creature. This gives Sophie time to leave the hiding place and go downstairs in the house. Unfortunately, Hamish is there and captures her again. Soon, Sean reaches them and fearing for the young woman's life, he orders her to run and points the gun at his father. A scuffle between them ensues and in a fight, Sean knocks his father into the basement. Suddenly, the creature appears in front of Sean, but does not attack him. Sean has no more ammunition to stop it when the duende enters the basement and attacks his father ferociously, and that is the price he paid for all the atrocities he committed. Sophie runs to the car and starts the vehicle. She speeds down the road when she notices the creature is in the back of the truck. Sophie tries to knock the duende off before the creature kills her. With no other choice, the young woman puts on her seatbelt and steers the vehicle off the road. The impact throws the duende far away. However, the sudden stop was not enough to kill the aberration. When Sophie cannot start the car, she decides to get out and run. Fortunately for her, morning approaches. While running through the forest, she trips over a bag, the same one as the first victim at the beginning. Looking inside, she discovers they were trying to steal gold coins from the duende, which is why they were running. Suddenly, the creature approaches her, obsessed with its gold. Seeing a blade stuck in the ground, Sophie has an idea and throws the coins up. And when the duende looks up, Sophie decapitates it with a blade. Fortunately, the terror that followed in this forest ceases, and Sophie can leave the area of terror and be safe again. However, after crossing the Celtic boundaries, Sophie sees that the terror will continue.